After more than 20 years of marriage, you stop questioning things. Not because everything is perfect, but because familiarity feels like safety. People around us called us solid, the kind of couple others pointed to and said, if they made it, anyone can. We raised children together. We paid mortgages. We survived illnesses, job losses, family funerals. We built routines so strong they felt unbreakable. And that was the mistake. Because when a relationship lasts that long, you don't imagine betrayal anymore. You imagine inconvenience. You imagine boredom. You imagine silence. But not infidelity. This is the story of how a marriage can survive decades and still collapse quietly, without drama, without warning, and without mercy. After 20 years, love changes shape. It becomes less visible, less urgent. You don't flirt anymore. You don't impress each other. You don't even argue the same way. Arguments turn into sighs. Disappointments turn into habits. We didn't hate each other. That's the important part. We functioned. Mornings followed schedules. Evenings followed television programs. Weekends followed errands and obligations. We knew each other's movements so well that surprises disappeared. And when there are no surprises, there is also no curiosity. We stopped asking questions, not because we didn't care, but because we assumed we already knew the answers. That's what 20 years does. It convinces you that nothing new can happen, especially nothing dangerous. The distance didn't arrive suddenly. It arrived politely. Longer showers, more time outside the house, phone always on silent. But none of it screamed cheating. It whispered fatigue. We blamed age, we blamed stress, we blamed responsibility. Intimacy became scheduled, then postponed, then optional. We stopped touching without purpose. A hand on the shoulder felt unnecessary. A kiss felt symbolic. Still, I told myself this was normal. This is what long marriages look like. What I didn't realize was that while our relationship was slowing down, someone else's was accelerating. And I wasn't invited to notice. There's a dangerous myth about long marriages. The idea that time itself creates loyalty. It doesn't. Time creates comfort, and comfort creates negligence. We believed we were immune. Too old for drama, too invested to fail. We said things like, we've been through worse. We're past that stage. We know each other too well. But knowing someone for decades doesn't mean you see them clearly. It just means you stop checking. And that's when secrets grow. Not in chaos, but in calm. When people imagine discovering infidelity, they imagine shouting, crying, confrontation. This wasn't like that. It was quiet. A message seen accidentally, a name I didn't recognize, a tone that didn't belong to us. There was affection there, warmth, interest, the kind we hadn't used in years. I didn't panic. I didn't react. I froze. Because when betrayal arrives after 20 years, your first instinct isn't anger. It's disbelief. You ask yourself if you misunderstood, if it's harmless, if you're being paranoid. Denial becomes protection. Suspicion is painful. Proof is surgical. Dates lined up. Messages became patterns. Excuses suddenly had structure. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't accidental. It was intentional, maintained, protected. I realized something terrifying. The affair wasn't destroying the marriage. It was replacing it. Emotionally first, physically second. And I was still living inside the shell of something that had already moved on. When I confronted them, there was no shouting, no denial, just silence. And then honesty, the kind that arrives too late to save anything. They said it started slowly, that it felt harmless, that it filled a void. They said they didn't plan to leave. They said they didn't plan to hurt me. But betrayal doesn't need planning. It just needs permission. And they had given it to themselves. Infidelity after 20 years feels different. It doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like erasure. Like your entire shared history wasn't strong enough to matter. You don't just lose a partner. You lose a witness to your life. Someone who saw your younger self, your failures, your growth. And suddenly, they chose someone who didn't earn any of that history. That's what hurts most. People always ask, why didn't they just leave? Because comfort is powerful. Because stability is addictive. Because leaving costs more than lying. They stayed because the marriage worked on paper. They cheated because emotionally it didn't. They wanted both. And for a while, they had both. After 20 years, people stay for the same reason they fear leaving: time. They believe it's too late, too risky, too exhausting. So they settle into half-lives, marriages that function but don't breathe, affairs that feel alive but destroy everything they touch. After 20 years, I learned this. Infidelity isn't about opportunity. It's about neglect. Not always neglect from one side, but mutual emotional absence. Long marriages don't die suddenly. They fade slowly. And if no one notices the fading, someone else eventually will.